right, we begin with matters of security as over 280 pupils and teachers of government secondary school and LEA primary school at Kuriga, Kaduna State were abducted by bandits on Thursday. The Jamaatul Nasir Islam Amnesty International, the Parent-Teacher Association of Nigeria, the Nigeria Union of Teachers, and the House of Representatives have condemned the attack and asked the government to rescue the victims immediately. The bandits reportedly invaded the Kuriga area of the TUC local government area of Kaduna State, shooting at their victims before taking away the pupils and teachers. This incident occurred barely 24 hours after insurgents abducted 200 internally displaced women in Ngalabono State. The women kidnapped had been fetching firewood in the bush. When will this attack and abduction end? These are the questions every Nigerian is asking now. And joining me to attempt to answer these questions is Dennis Samakri, retired Assistant Director, Department of State Services. Thank you for joining us. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening.
All right. How do you react to the rescue efforts being made by the authorities, state government? Is it enough to rescue these children and tackle these deep-seated ills?
We have been discussing this particular issue of kidnapping over the years. And I think we have always used the same methods, without introducing or, accepting new innovations that are coming into play. I know that the Safe School initiative has been there right after the Chibok girls. And now nothing was really done about it. And then, of course, we keep on moving on and on and on. And now it is spreading because from the northeast now, we are moving into the northwest and right into the, north central. So I am not really impressed. I think more need to be done. I think we have to put more pressure on the kidnappers to make any headway.
All right, Mr. Makri, what also would you make of the concerns over the lack of security measures in the schools?
The schools, did you see that, is it Kutiga secondary school where in Kaduna State where they went to attack and carry out a lot of students away?
Yes.
If you look at it, you find out that, number one, there are no fences, no perimeter fence. And these are what the Safe School Initiative has recommended. No perimeter fence, no gates. So people can come in from different angles into the compound, and no alarm systems because they attacked them around 1 a.m. and then, of course, they were there till early in the morning and they left with all those students. And one thing that really baffles me, which I think the security agents should start to think about, is how can you take 280 students out in that Sahel area without anybody knowing? And then, of course, how do you carry them? How do you guard them? How easy is it to manage them to wherever destination you are taking them to? So I think these are issues that we will have to look at.
All right, let's also talk about the idea of bringing these perpetrators to book. Now, the First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, has called for the implementation of capital punishment for those involved in kidnapping in the country. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree with the First Lady. I remember in 2006 when we were fighting kidnappings in the Niger Delta. What happens then was that they will kidnap all these expatriates they will use them for publicity and then let them go. You know, and we believe that then, you know, hostages will not be killed. Right now, hostages are being killed. In fact, you have situations where the hostage has died and then, you know, they still went ahead and negotiated and collected the ransom, you know, for a dead body, you know. And so these people are behaving with impunity. And I think the Nigerian state have to show them that it is not an easy deal for them to come in there, do whatever they want to do and go away. There is a government in Nigeria, and I think they should, you know, stamp their feet down. If they have to kill anybody, fine. Before we were advocating against killing kidnappers, because if you kill them, they might kill the hostages. But now they are already killing. So why should they be spared? So I agree with the First Lady. I think they should get their laws on, especially the states, because this one is not even a federal thing. You know, and that's one problem I'm facing here, whereby the states are behaving as if it doesn't concern them. It's a federal thing. It's a state issue. And they should be able to handle.
Exactly, Mr. Dennis. Speaking of states being the state issue, do you think the states, as well as the local government, have the capacity to even handle this issue? Isn't that why people are advocating for state policing?
Oh, yeah. You know, we've been advocating for state policing for more than 8 years. You know, and we believe that that is the way to go. Crime is committed in a locality, and then to fight that crime, you have to have the law enforcement around that area. So that is what is a simple thing, is done everywhere. In the United States, UK, Nigeria should also adopt, you know, things like that. And it's not just to create state police, because I am not very satisfied, you know, about the way it is going. People are saying, okay, let's create state police. The people refuse, some legislators refused. APC was pushing for it. PDP was refusing to establish that law. Now APC is in government, and PDP is pushing for it. Governors are pushing for it. And fortunately, this president has said, go ahead, let's go do it. So, but there's an important aspect. To establish state police, we expect that it will be created properly. The laws that are going to establish it are going to be one that spells out their responsibility. And that will be different from the federal police and then from the local government police. So the state police should have their own laws. And then, of course, they have to be well trained. They should be well trained, because if we are going to attack these bandits or terrorists, actually they are terrorists, and we are going to deal with them, they are carrying AK-47 rocket-propelled grenade launchers and stuff like that. We have to give them special weapons and tactics, trained in superior tactics in dealing with stuff like this. So, state police can be created, but we should not forget the training that comes with it.
All right, Mr. Dennis Makri, thank you very much for your contributions so far. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a short break. Our Newsweek continues in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back, and it's still Newsweek, where we discuss the biggest stories that made the headlines in the week. The back and forth regarding the minimum wage continues. This week, the Nigerian Labour Congress proposed 794,000 naira as the new minimum wage for Nigerian workers, while the Trade Union Congress advocated 497,000 naira during the Southwest Zonal public hearing on the national minimum wage held in Lagos. The governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, also proposed an increase in the minimum wage, calling for a new amount of 45,000 naira. Meanwhile, the Southeast chapter of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, proposed 540,000 naira and 447,000 naira, respectively, as the new minimum wage for Nigerian workers. I have joining me in the studio also Olufemi Lawson, Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Jacinta.
Now, it seems Joajero and Festus Osifo, they don't normally want to agree on anything. Looking at, I don't know if you perceive lack of unanimity between these unions, like many people think.
Well, in the first place, the essence and, of course, the existence of two labor centers, so to put it, the NLC and TUC itself is a product of disunity, because in the past it was the NLC that was a major labor center. Suddenly, because of certain disagreement, we had the TUC, which claimed it was coming to represent interests of senior workers within the labor movement and the like. So the question of unity already existed within the existence of these two labor centers. So you cannot expect a unity in their ideology or their approach to issues. And that is why today the Labour NLC will call for a mass action. The TUC will dissociate itself. Today the TUC is taking one step forward, NLC will be taking another step backward. So the fact that the two seems to represent, organizations speaking for the workers means there's no unity. But that nonetheless, that cannot take away the right of Nigerian workers to make specific demands, irrespective of what the parent organizations do, how united they are or not.
Okay, do you also think that this divergent stance by the unions is even realistic?
Well, the reality is that until we begin to treat the root cause of these challenges, of course, this is not the first time government is setting up committees to review minimum wage. In fact, in actual fact, at some point, it became a constitutional issue that between so period and so period, the National Assembly must review the minimum wage law, prescribe new minimum wage and the likes. But the question is, we have continued to place the burden of wages and salaries on the federal government. And in a truly federal state, a true federation, I don't think it should be the duty of the federal government to determine the minimum wage. Especially when you look at the productivity, capacity of these states across the country. How do you want to negotiate minimum wage at the federal level for workers in Lagos who probably spend 5 hours in traffic, who pay more transportation, who spend more on their living standard, accommodation and like, with the same worker in Zamfara or Gombe State? We must, as much as possible, begin to let the labor center and, of course, the government itself understand that there are certain businesses that the federal government have no business in being involved in. The minimum wage discussion is one of those businesses. For God's sake, I don't think it is, I don't think it is necessary, let me use that mad word, for the federal government to continue to put issues of wages and salary on the exclusive list.
Exactly. So you're with those that are advocating that the state determine.
Let the state negotiate their wages and salaries on the basis of their productivity and capacity.
Okay, so how do you think the government can balance the interest of workers and as well the economic stability? What do you think other countries are doing that we are not doing?
The most important thing that other societies are doing that we are not doing is that we are putting the burden of wages and salary on our central government, on our federal government. Today, we want federal government to determine salaries for workers in Lagos, Abuja, Zamfara, KB, and Ebonyi State, while we are not empowering the states, enough to actually be productive enough. If you listen to the statement of the governor of Bauchi, proposing 45,000 naira, he's not just proposing 45,000 naira, which I found ridiculous. He's also, at the same time, advocating that there must be increase in allocation to the states. Most of these governors will still rely on monthly federation allocation to the state to be able to pay this minimum wage. Whereas we have states that has capacity, including states that are presumably poor. Let me give you an instance. Kogi State, Zamfara State, Gombe State today, and even Nasarawa State, should be able to conveniently, comfortably pay salaries in the minimum of about 200 to 250,000 on the basis of their available mineral resources. But these are states that are struggling to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage because they have become less productive. They wait for the 30 days to go to Abuja and get what is available, then come and distribute for contracts, for salaries, and the like. So we must look at the way out, which is what I think people have been asking the president to do, which is also showing commitment to restructuring the system to ensure that these states, because our states are no longer productive, except for very few states, like Lagos, that could thrive in internally generated revenue, that could thrive in productivity, except for very few states like Rivers and few other states, some that could thrive in agriculture. Most Nigerian states are not productive. They wait for 30 days to go to Abuja, bring money and pay salaries and award contracts. We must look beyond that. Until we do that, this burden, people will begin to shift the burden of their wives are pregnant, they cannot pay salaries and the likes to Abuja, whereas they sit on enormous wealth in their various states that can be able to take care of their needs and the needs of their people.
Okay, finally, on this topic, what do you think about the leadership skill of or style of Joe Ajaero? People seem not to, workers seem not to trust his moves and all of that. Well,
basically, for some of us who have known Comrade Joe Ajaero before he became the NLC president, he has always been a very radical person. He has always been somebody who is always ready to go to the streets. And I think it's only people who are not familiar with his antecedent. Go and look at his record as General Secretary of the Electricity Workers Union. He is always ready for the battle. And I don't think he's doing anything strange. Most importantly, if you look at most actions that have been taken by the Joe Ajaero leadership of the NLC, they have been accepted by the workforce, particularly the affiliate unions of the NLC. I think it is most important that we begin to look at are his actions acceptable to the majority of those he is leading, and how do we address the concerns of the labor under the leadership of Joe Ajaero without unnecessarily looking at the negative sides.
All right, let's move to our final story for tonight. Binance has announced the suspension of its services for Nigeria's currency, the Naira, due to an ongoing regulatory conflict in the country. Binance, a cryptocurrency exchange platform, was accused of exploiting Nigeria's currency, the Naira, causing its value to plummet. The country is also accused of terrorism finance. The company as well, rather, is accused of financing, terrorism financing, money laundering, and tax evasion, among other things. The company, in a statement, has advised users to withdraw their money, straight their assets, or convert it to crypto. As you have Olufemi Lawson in the studio with me. Olufemi, I don't know what you make of this claim by some analysts or Nigerians saying that the idea of Binance leaving the country is taking the whole opportunity for the young generation as well, increasing unemployment in Nigeria.
Well, not totally in agreement, especially when you look at some of the key issues that has to do with national security, economic sabotage that have been genuinely raised by the Nigerian government. That nonetheless, this decision has both negative and positive effects, especially when you look at the number of people that are going to be affected who are trading on this platform. Of course, it has created jobs in the digital market, but on the other hand, I think we should also look at the positive side of this. Is this not an opportunity for us to make advantage we launched the e-Naira, a cryptocurrency, some couple of years ago. Where's our e-Naira today? I think it's an opportunity for our local digital currencies to also thrive if Binance is leaving. While on the other side, we are looking at the negative, which is, how many people are going to be losing the opportunity to trade on this platform? But I think most importantly, we should interrogate how much more of the damages that this has done to us in terms of our national security, in terms of our economic sabotage, how much more of this has been used to launder our money. But most importantly, while we are dealing with Binance and other crypto platforms that have been used to sabotage the value of our local currencies, are we also looking at how much of this foreign exchange, foreign currencies that are in the hands of individuals, private citizens in this country, that are being held illegally? As much as we are trying to regulate these cryptocurrency platforms, as much as we are trying to deal with Binance and other platforms, there are individuals who have enough forex in their custody to cause insecurity, to sabotage this economy, and destabilize the country. So we must do more also in ensuring that everyone who have kept dollars in their vaults, in their houses, are converting it to our local currency, the Naira. And that is one shortcut to making sure that we increase the value of our currency, because as much as we deal with these crypto platforms that are, of course, in the words of the government sabotaging the value of our currencies, we must also look inward in dealing with people, particularly private individuals and some in the political class, who are also in the business of storing foreign currencies at the detriment of the value of our local currency.
I know you've mentioned some of them, but what are the practical steps that you're suggesting the government take to encourage responsible cryptocurrency trading?
Well, I think the best way is to promote local participation, and government must also look at regulating. Every country regulate the activities of these platforms. The government must be deliberate in regulating this platform and not making it a free-for-all market like we currently have in the country. For God's sake, this is a country governed by law. How do you have platforms that could trade to the volume of billions of dollars operating in a country, and you cannot actually pinpoint who and who is involved in this trade until we begin to see how much of these transactions has affected our national security, has affected our economy badly. So the government must be deliberate in ensuring that this trade is regulated. The government must also be deliberate in ensuring that it monitors not only the activities of crypto market, but also the activities of other businesses and stakeholders that are involved in our foreign exchange, system.
All right, finally, before we go, what do you think about the leadership style of the CBN governor? How would you rate his moves so far?
Well, for those of us who have been part of who have observed the system in the past, personally, at some point, my organization took the former CBN governor to court. And the idea is that if you look at the damage that has been done, particularly in the last 8 years, within the institution of the federal government, I personally, since the appointment of Mr. Yemi Cardozo as the CBN governor, I am not expecting any immediate relief or magic, except you don't know how much of damage has been done. But because the president has trust in him, and because of his antecedent, I think he has to buckle up, double his effort, beyond his recommendations and his previous capacity, to ensure that in a very short time, we're able to rescue this country and return the monetary policies of this country and our economy on the path of progress.
Right, the right place to leave it. Thank you very much, Olufemi Lawson, Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability. Thank you for your contributions.
My pleasure.
As always. And as well, thank you for being a part of the show. That's the show for today. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG or on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Jacinta Gochuku. Until next week, it's goodbye.